Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here, special guest coming in from Madisonville, actually. It's Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Thank you so much.
Oh, Harry, thanks for having me, man.
Spent a little time in Washington, D.C., too.
Yeah, I do. But it's great to be out of Washington and back in America, man.
Yeah, it's good. Good to see you come through here, the energy sector. I know you guys have been busy up there, so it looks like you just passed a bill that will have something to do with the energy sector. It went in as the anti-inflation bill. It came out as now a climate bill. So that always perks our ears up.
It's a terrible bill, Harry. It's a horrible bill. I mean, it's basically what the president and Senator Manchin and Senator Schumer have done is take. It's a massive capital transfer out of the pockets of American people and businesses into the pockets of the climate change industrial complex. You know how much it's going to reduce world temperatures? Zero, because we're going to make all these sacrifices and watch our energy prices rise, and China and India and sub-Saharan Africa are going to keep emitting CO2. They tax the hell out of oil and gas in this bill. I fought it every step of the way, but they passed it with 51 votes, with the vice president breaking the tie. It's just going to further make us less energy independent.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, particularly when you have the issues in Russia and Ukraine, and then you have the shortage of oil and gas, and you're going, wait, we have some here.
Well, I'm not against wind and solar and nuclear and hydrogen. Most people are. If you can produce those and help our economy, that's great. But you've got to be a special kind of stupid to think that you can run the strongest economy in all of human history without fossil fuels.
Right.
Maybe not ever. And we were energy independent, and President Biden gave it up, which not only hurts us domestically and causes the price of gasoline and energy to go up, but it's dangerous in terms of national security. And if we take back Congress, one of the first things we're going to try to do is reverse all this craziness. We cannot run this world. We cannot run this country. We cannot be safe without fossil fuels. It can't be done.
Right. I mean, it's not just oil and gas in an automobile. Obviously, it's plastics, it's medicines.
Look what happened in Europe.
Right.
All the Europeans are, we don't, oil and gas is bad stuff, okay? We have to have it, but it's bad stuff, and we're not going to produce our own. But our good friend, Uncle Putin in Russia, will sell it to us, and he can be the bad guy. Well, they got totally dependent on Putin. And what did Putin do? He's got them over a barrel now.
Right.
And too late, they woke up. I don't want to see that happen to America.
Yeah, now he's making money off the higher price of oil, too.
But I work on the energy issues. I work a lot. I sit on the Appropriations Committee, and I have to make sure, I enjoy making sure Louisiana gets its fair share. We got hit so hard, as you know, by Ida.
Sure.
Last time I looked, we had wrestled about $500 million out of the federal government to try to help businesses and people in our area. I know I got us $50 million from the Morganza to the Gulf levee system. I work a lot on getting money for dredging. Maritime is our blood,
big, yeah.
But our waterways silt up. They'll silt up on you, man, pretty quick. And I've got to constantly work to get the money to keep things dredged.
Yeah, always big. You mentioned Morganza to the Gulf, and that's always a big issue around here. Part of that issue is the FEMA maps, and the 2.0.
I know.
Not taking into consideration all the work we've done down here in the last 30 years of trying to build levees and make our places better.
Well, I've introduced a bill. I don't have the votes to pass it because the Democrats won't support it, to roll back this risk rating 2.0. FEMA is running this thing, and they can pretty much do what they want. FEMA's under the control of the president. The president is President Biden. And FEMA has come up with this new secret formula based on a computer algorithm that they say they can predict what the risk for everybody's home or business for the next 100 years. And I said, boy, that's pretty special. Show me the algorithm and let me see how you do it. And they, oh, no, we can't show you. But they said we promise you it's going to cause a lot of people's premiums to go down. Yeah, about 7 people have seen their premium. Everybody else has gone up. So I've introduced a bill, and along with other members of the delegation, we're trying to get the whole thing reversed. But frankly, until President Biden gives the okay to the Democrats, they're not going to vote for it. And I'm convinced President Biden's not going to make any changes. I begged him, but he's not going to do it. He doesn't understand the bill.
Well, there's an election coming up, and do you think there might be some change in that election?
This is what I tell my people all the time. This is the problem right now in terms of Washington. Washington is in control of the nut jobs. And Republicans aren't perfect. I'm a Republican. I'll be the first to admit Republicans aren't perfect. But the other side's crazy. Okay? And I've tried reasoning with them. The only place we're going to find cheaper food, cheaper gasoline prices, reasonably priced flood insurance is in the voting booth. We're just going to have to beat these people.
Right.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, raising taxes and doing those kind of things seem to be counterintuitive to tamping down inflation.
Well, this bunch in Washington, they don't respect the opinion of the average American. They don't care what the average American thinks. Their attitude is up there, we, these insider elites, are smarter than you are. We're more virtuous than you are. You need to just shut up and do what you're told. And if you behave, we'll let you eat meat occasionally. Well, that might work in China, but that's not going to work in America.
Always a fascinating time to watch, and as a spectator, really, to watch politics as it happens. Last Monday, I guess we saw President Trump's residence was the DOJ went in there with a subpoena and took some things. I guess we don't know yet. No, on either side. I mean, you may. We don't as the public know what they were looking for or what they're doing. But what's your feeling on seeing that happen?
I don't know. Here's what I know. I know that the Department of Justice and the FBI raided a former president's home. Now, in a vacuum, the decision to send in the FBI and raid a former president's home, any former president's home, is extraordinary. In fact, it's never happened. It's unprecedented. But we don't exist in a vacuum. There's a history here. And given that history, the Steele dossier that supposedly showed all the Russian collusion, which was bunk, the Inspector General Michael Horowitz report that was a scathing criticism of the upper echelon at the FBI. Just 2 weeks ago, whistleblowers came forward and said some other FBI agents were whitewashing the Hunter Biden laptop investigation. There's a history here. And in light of that, I'm not saying this is what's true, but millions of Americans are looking at this and going, in light of the history, this is beginning to look personal. And it's beginning to look political. And this isn't an aberration. There's a pattern here. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying there isn't, because we just don't know. But you got to take that in consideration. And I think the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and Chris Wray, the director of the FBI, they have released the search warrant, which didn't tell us much. They need to release the affidavit that they showed the judge to get the search warrant, and they need to call a press conference and say we have nothing to hide, and stand there and answer questions until nobody else has any questions.
Right.
Because you also couple this with the fact that President Biden has said, I'm going to run for re-election. President Biden has made an issue in his re-election, the President Trump and the Make America Great campaign. Mm-hmm. And then here his FBI and Department of Justice is raiding his political opponent's house. Now, again, I don't have the facts, but it looks bad, and it needs to be explained. Nobody is above the law, but nobody is beneath the law.
Sure.
And I'm still trying to get my mind around.
Right. We want to see what it is. And you're right. When you look back on it, it just right from the beginning, I don't know if they ever gave him a chance, but like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan.
For 4 years, the FBI And many members of the Washington media said, you know, Trump colluded with Russia to win the election, and here's this Steele dossier as proof.
Right.
Well, the Steele dossier was made up,
Sure.
and the FBI was involved in all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And for them to come back now and say, well, trust us, you know, I play poker with my friends sometimes. When I play poker with them, I trust them. They're my friends, but I always cut the cards. Now,
Right.
the Attorney
was right from the
General
beginning,
and the
yeah.
President of the United States need to go in front of the American people and say, let me tell you what's going on here.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
And,
We need
and
more
it breaks my heart, as
transparency.
you can, I feel
Sure.
strong about it, because there's some really good men and women in the FBI.
Absolutely.
But we know, at least at some point, there were some people at the upper echelon leadership positions in the FBI and at the Department of Justice who were acting on their political beliefs. You can't do that.
No.
You can have political beliefs, but when you're in one of these law enforcement agencies, you're supposed to
can't.
be impartial.
Yeah, absolutely. With that said, I thought it was interesting because when former President Trump was talking about it, he said things need to cool down a little bit.
They do.
And you know, and what do you mean by that?
Well, I think people look at this and they see what I just described, and I was trying to be fair and balanced. And some people say, well, Trump deserved it. But there are millions of other people that say, wait a minute, Biden is doing this to a political enemy after this history of abuse by some people at the FBI and the Department of Justice. This doesn't look fair. And Americans are entitled to believe what they want, but they need the facts. And the only way to get the fact, there's only one group that has the facts. Those are the people who did it, who conducted the search and the raid and made a decision to do it. And that's the FBI Director, Chris Wray, and the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. And if I were they, I'd just call a press conference and say, whoever wants to come ask me questions, members of the media, I'll stay here all afternoon. I'll answer everyone.
Well, the media is something as well. Is there any way, like, just, hey, a couple of senators come back, we'll show what we've got to kind of,
Yeah,
where we don't have
that
to
would
repeat-
work, and
right.
we've asked to see the information, but Garland said no. The Attorney General said no, and so has the FBI. I mean, their response has been, "You just got to trust us," and I do trust them, but there's a history here. Like I say, I trust my buddies when we play poker, but I cut the cards with them.
Absolutely.
You know, you trust but verify.
Sure.
And it has split the American people down the middle, and we don't need.
Right.
And I think that's what President Trump was talking about when we need to lower the temperature. But the only way to lower this temperature is to have the Attorney General and the FBI Director tell us what's going on.
Right. Because, yeah, I don't see it going. If it goes the other way in November, it'll be an impeachment probably, and it'll just swing back and
Yeah,
forth.
we
And
don't,
we
I don't
need
want
all
to
of
get
that.
in all of that.
Right.
I want things to settle down, and let's start working on problems that moms and dads worry about at night when they lie down to sleep and can't, like inflation,
Right.
like jobs, like crime, like the fact that Washington, D.C. is trying to destroy the petrochemical and the oil and gas industry in America at the same time. Those are the issues I want to work on.
There's an election coming up.
Yeah.
There's abortion is now a big play with the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Police, the insurrection, January 6th, all the riots from the last couple of years. You know, coming out of COVID, it's a very volatile time, and that's where we're talking about maybe cooling some things off. As you prepare for a new election, and what are you talking to people about?
Well, I'm talking to them about the economy. I'm talking to them about inflation, about what I've tried to do and would do if Republicans took control of the Congress again. I'm talking a lot about crime. One of the reasons, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons, Harry, the crime has gone up is because there's this movement out of Washington to defund and disrespect the police. Now, there's some cops that misbehave, and in almost every case when they do, they're punished. But the vast majority of our law enforcement officials just want to do a decent job and protect the people. But there's some whack jobs in Washington that think I've heard them say this, and so not in these exact words, but some of these whack jobs in D.C. think that if a cop shoots a criminal it's the cop's fault automatically. But if a criminal shoots the cop, it's the gun's fault. You know, nobody is responsible for their actions. If you're a criminal, you're not a bad person. You're just mixed up and confused. And if we sit down and hug each other over a cup of hot cocoa, everything will be okay. That's not the world. I wish it were the world. And we are losing policemen and policewomen right and left. They're retiring.
Right.
New ones don't want to come aboard, and there's some
Blame
we need them.
anybody? I can't blame anybody taking that job right now.
And weakness invites the wolves, both in terms of our foreign enemies, but also in terms of antisocial people who just can't live in society. And I think some of my Democratic colleagues realize they went too far, but they just need to stop it. The President Biden needs to stop it. He just needs to stop it. He knows better.
Right.
But these people want to turn cops into social workers. We need social workers, but we need cops too.
Oh, we absolutely do. And like I say, the numbers are down around the country, so it's hard to, especially in big cities, to be a police officer.
I mean, and some of my colleagues say, well, if we just had gun control laws, okay, if gun control laws would stop these criminals, Chicago would be Mayberry.
Right.
Chicago has the tightest, strongest gun control laws in the world, and it's also the world's largest outdoor shooting range.
Right.
They'll have 5, 10, 15 people killing each other in Chicago, and a lot of it is gang related, and they just need to let the cops do their job.
Sure. And look, if you defund police, who's going to come help you, right?
That's right. I mean, they
I got to protect myself at some point.
The wokers in Washington, they want to defund the police, but they also
And have
want to
gun
take your
control.
gun. You know?
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Another one of the things we were looking at was Medicare costs and medical costs in general. Is there a way to get that cost in line?
One of our biggest problems is the cost of insulin. We had, especially in Louisiana, we got a high incidence of diabetes. I offered an amendment to President Biden and Senator Schumer and Manchin's bill that they passed. I didn't vote for it. About a week ago, the president just signed it. I offered an amendment to try to cap the cost of insulin. I got 50 votes. The bad news is the Democrats all voted against it, and they had 50 votes. I had to have 51 to pass it. I'm going to keep working on it. I'm not going to give up. I've worked really hard to advance generic drugs that are much cheaper than the name brand drugs. That's one way to bring the cost down. It's something I work on every day.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the point I was going to bring up. Walmart has had Rely on Insulin, which is like an N and R. It's been $25 for years. And you can buy a vial for $25. It's not the super high-end analog insulins, but it's been affordable. It's been there the whole time. But now it seems like they want to put even the high-end stuff in a lower cost.
Well, and we need to do something about it. Now, insulin is not a synthetically produced drug; it's a biologic, and it's not easily copied. So you can't really say, "Well, let's get generic insulin."
That's why it's expensive to make.
Yeah, it's expensive to make, but it's a necessity, and we just got to. I mean, it's not going to do any good for my people in Louisiana to have it out there if they can't afford it.
Right.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And it's a life and death matter. If you have diabetes, you got to have it.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And without a doubt. And we got to make all of those things affordable. And I'm sure sticking to formularies and doing that kind of stuff, pharmacy benefit managers. I know you know. I know you know all
yeah,
that.
I know all about them. And there's a lot of greed in the business.
Sure.
But I was very disappointed in my Democratic colleagues when they voted against my insulin amendment. I was and I told them, and I understand the politics. They didn't want a Republican to pass an amendment to their bill. But anyway,
Senator
we'll
Kennedy,
get them next time.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Best of luck in November. So we appreciate it.
Yep, and you tell Martin. I hope you're getting some work out of Martin. Okay, you got to watch him like a hawk,
Always
man.
put him to work.
Put him to work.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back with more Bite Time after this.